solve two-step equations. Now the key here is 2 steps. We're going to do 2 things. And we always play with the variable last. So because we're trying to get the variable by itself, playing with that part of the equation is the last thing we do. All right, let's jump in. The thing to remember with any equations is we're going to do the same thing to both sides. Always. All right, here we go. We're going to solve 3x minus 7 equals 8. Friends, if you are a visual learner, I want you to step by step with me. And you might think, oh, I can do these in my head. Well, that's great, but what happens when you get to more difficult ones that are like way more steps? You've got to have the fundamentals, which is why we focus here. Where you see the equal sign, I like to put myself a little vertical bar because that's the 2 sides. So when I say you got to do the same thing to both sides, this is what I'm talking about. If you add something, you got to add it to both sides. You subtract, multiply, divide. Doesn't matter which operation, you got to do it to both sides of that vertical line, right? Both sides of the equal sign. Now we identify our variable. So this is the variable piece that we will play with last. So what else do we see? Well, I see a minus 7, so let's move it. The opposite of minus 7 is a plus 7. So I do that to both sides. The reason we add 7 is because if I have negative 7 and then I add 7, think about a number line. If I'm at negative 7 and I add 7, I get to 0, right? And that's what we want. We want that to go away to leave our variable piece there. So the 7's cancel out. I still have 3x left over. And then on the right side, 8 plus 7 is 15. I find that students who write down all the steps make fewer mistakes. It's not because they're better at math. It's because you can see what you're playing with. And that is key. All right, so the next step, we need to get rid of this 3. 3 is touching the x, so that means multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I have 1x, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. You can always go back and check your work. 3 times 5 minus 7. Well, that's 15 minus 7, which is 8. That's what the right side is, so I know I'm correct, right? So it's always, if you have the time, checking your work is positive. Okay, let's do another one. Y over 2 minus 3 equals 4. Again, the variable piece is what we want to play with last. So I see the minus 3. The opposite of minus 3 is a plus 3. So the 3's cancel out. I'm left with y divided by 2 equals 7. And y divided by 2, the opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. The reason this works is because on the left-hand side, when I multiply by 2, these 2 cancel out. I'm left with y over 1, which is just y. So y equals 14. 2x plus 8 equals 32. Okay, here's my variable piece, so that's last. So I have plus 8. The opposite of plus 8 is minus 8. So my 8's cancel out, and I'm left with 2x equals 24. And now again, 2 times x, so the opposite of times is divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and I'm left with x equals 12. Let's do one more just for fun. Last one. Okay, so we have our equal sign. I see my variable piece, so this is last. I see the plus 5, so I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. 5 minus 5 is 0, so I'm left with x over 3 equals 4. And then this is division, right? A fraction bar is the same as division. So I multiply both sides by 3, and again, x equals 12. And that is a couple of examples of solving two-step equations.